Hello and welcome to another edition of the House of Wellness. Joe Stanley, Jacqui Felgate, Dr. Nick Carr. Great to be with you all as always.
And how good is this outdoor office? You know, you've got the beautiful fresh air, the colours of nature and the smells of summer.
Joe, the gardens are beautiful, but there's a lot going on beneath the surface too, Dr. Nick. There are some amazing remedies that dwell within the flowers and the foliage.
And you're talking about bugs, Jack. And insects really are the new superheroes of medicine. And they actually could be the key to help solve our increasing over-reliance on antibiotics.
Nick, including leeches, those slimy little suckers have got a big role to play in medicine, particularly in reconstructive surgery. They're coming back big time.
And spiders might scare the life out of you, but today we actually look at spider venom that they think could actually be life-saving for heart attack victims.
And Dr. Isabel and I introduce you to some of the critters that live on and inside us.
And we'll also take a look at the makeup revolution that's finding the perfect product for every skin colour.
And Dr. Nick, bugs as medicine is becoming a big thing, along with edible bugs as a unique industry of its own. So we're going to talk a lot about bugs today.
And the official term for eating insects is entomophagy. And it's been practiced, entomophagy, easy. And it's been practiced in different parts of the world for many years, but it's now catching on in the West. I've actually tried a few myself.
Well, biting down on a beetle or crunching on a caterpillar may not be for everyone, but world-renowned Brooklyn chef Joseph Yoon is on a mission to change the view of the world when it comes to eating insects, proving they're more scrumptious than squirmish.
Insects are incredible. Without them, nothing would exist on this planet. Like, they're part of the little miraculous creatures that make this world go round. So I love this cerebral sort of thought process to be able to change the perception from insects as the pests to edible insects, something that's sustainably farmed or harvested specifically for human consumption. If we take crickets as one example, they have all 9 essential amino acids. They also are 50 to 80% protein by weight. They have vitamin B12 and minerals, low in fat and low in carbs. So they are a really incredible nutrient-dense source of food. Insects have such wildly different and crazy flavors. Like, they could be anything from nutty to earthy to mushroomy to citrusy to coconutty, fatty and unctuous to smoky. And what we're also seeing is that because they have such small gastrointestinal tracts and they're much simpler creatures than mammals and the larger animals, the scientists that we're working with right now, they're able to change the nutritional profile and add more omega-3 than omega-6 by what they feed it. They can even add vitamin D by shining a UV light on the mealworms, for example. I heard that chicken parme is kind of a big thing here. So what we made here is a cricket-crusted eggplant parme. A lot of times people expect insects to taste bad, and a very common reaction that people have, it tastes like food. Voila. It's a thing of magic, of wizardry, and so just being a part of changing the way that people think about it through the experience just brings me such great joy to be able to share this sort of work. So this ragu has cricket powder in it as well. And so it affects the flavor, and also on top of it, it also affects the nutrition. It improves the nutrition. And I love that if you want, you can top this off with crickets if you really want to kind of see it. And if you don't, you don't have to. There's no like right or wrong way. I love mixing all sorts of insects together. And I think that these mealworms will go perfectly on top of the parme. The most commonly eaten edible insect around the world is the beetle or the beetle larvae. Some of the other insects that I love to eat, black ants have formic acid as a defense mechanism. That gives it like this citrusy sort of flavor that's also a little fermented, almost like, dare I say, Vegemite, but not quite that fermented. I also have scorpions that are really fascinating. They're arthropods, just like our shellfish. shrimp, crab, lobster, they're all in the same phylum of arthropods. So we're already kind of eating sea bugs, and it's just a matter of like kind of thinking a little differently about their land relatives and considering to eat them as well. These are delightful cricket gougères, like French cheese puffs with cricket powder in them. And so if you want to be extra fun, of course you can add some bugginess to the dish so that you can see it and also give it a little taste. One of the great motivations for me to work with edible insects is because of its potential to address food security and the importance that we place on small farmers and small stakeholders who produce so much of the food that we eat around the world, but are the first to suffer the most because of the effects of climate change. As an homage to Australia, how about we have some blackened pavlova? And so the more we're able to put an emphasis on the importance of small farmers and stakeholders, to be able to help them, to be able to create food systems that can address food security and be able to provide food in all areas of the world, that's of like tremendous inspiration and motivation for me to be a part of trying to create solutions around that. And I would say this is more of a meringue, to be honest with you, than a pavlova. The pavlova has that just masterful, beautiful, marshmallowy center. There are over 2 billion people in over 80% of the world's nations that already regularly consume insects. I think that with Australia's help, if you guys are like, oh, this is a really delicious, mate, we could make buggy Tim Tams and buggy burgers. You don't even have to see it if you don't want. And if we're able to show how we have further evolved, how we're able to eat it, to make it in recognizable foods or something, I really believe that edible insects has been, but will be, in the next like 5 years, I'm gonna say, we're gonna be seeing a lot more of it at grocery stores and restaurants. I don't mind a little extra.
Now, I don't know, Nick, I'm looking at you, but that to me, a little tube full of crickets, and is that a mealworm, Joe?
I guess, yeah.
Come on, Dust.
That has no appeal to me at all, Jack. You're quite into it, aren't you?
I'm not going to read it.
Down the hatch.
You first, Nick.
Oh, OK. Well, I reckon it's not one at a time. I reckon it's the whole tube.
Here's a shot of...
here we go.
That's hard.
Oh, jeez.
That tastes like dirt.
How are you going there, Joe?
Delicious.
Well, I've got the real ant candy, and let me tell you, it's delicious. But how do you know there's ants in there? Why does it matter?
Come on, Dust. Time you tried one.
Well, I will in a minute, but eating insects as food to bugs as medicine, you want to talk about that, the little bloodsuckers that are being used in hospitals around Australia. I'm going to catch up with the Aussie farmer who's making a living out of growing them next on the House of Wellness.
Just give me one of those.
Oh, mate. No, thank you.
My favorite edible insect has got to be all of them. And even the ones that I don't like, what I think, where I might initially be like, oh, that tastes a little weird. What I think is like, how could I work with this new insect and create a foil, maybe through aromatics or through umami seasoning, and create the necessary framework so that it'll taste delicious. And so I have thus far not really met an insect that I have not liked, besides a mosquito.
Well, today, Nick, we're celebrating bugs and insects and the fact that we're eating them in record numbers, their use in medicine, but not all insects are good, correct?
Well, right now it's peak mozzie season, and actually mozzies have been responsible in the news recently for some pretty nasty infections.
Am I right, Nick, in saying that mosquitoes are the key offenders when it comes to sharing a flesh-eating virus with us humans? Am I right in that one?
Yeah, you're right, Das. We're talking about Buruli. And unfortunately, Victoria here is one of the peak areas for Buruli worldwide. Now, we've known the bug that causes it, a thing called Mycobacterium ulcerans, but how it's transmitted to humans has been an 80-year mystery until now. because some researchers at the Doherty have just finished a 5-year study, and they have finally proved conclusively that mosquitoes are the #1 transmitter of the disease to humans via, would you believe, possums.
Is that right? Well, mozzies don't bite me for it. I never get bitten by mosquitoes, but I do want to cover up with the idea that you could potentially get a flesh-eating virus, Nick.
Yeah, well, between malaria, dengue, and now Baruli, we have to say mozzies really are our #1 sort of insect villain. But on the flip side, as my doctor daughter Isabel has just discovered, there are some creepy crawlies that really are the superheroes of the medical world.
The riverside town of Echuca is one of Victoria's most popular fishing destinations. But back in the 90s, Brian Woodbridge shifted his attention from catching Murray cod to finding and breeding a not-so-beloved local creature.
Brian, you've been a leech farmer for over 25 years. How on earth did you get started in this industry?
Well, I had a background in fish farming and yabbies, and a friend of mine was we were at a dinner party and there's a plastic surgeon there, and he said, "Do you ever come across leeches?" And from there on, it's grown to what it is now.
During the 18th and 19th century, draining a patient's blood with leeches was thought to be an effective treatment for everything from cancer to epilepsy. Thankfully, these days we know better, but it turns out leeches still have a valuable role to play in modern medicine.
The leeches are fascinating animals. They have not only the ability to mechanically suck blood, but this saliva has many interesting properties. They have their own anesthetic component, they have their own anti-inflammatory component, and most importantly, they have a very powerful blood thinner.
So they've got anaesthetic, they've got anti-inflammatory and anticoagulation properties,
correct.
All in this one little critter.
Correct. So this is
Such unique properties make leeches an incredibly useful resource for reconstructive procedures at St Vincent's Hospital, Melbourne.
The nurses here,
When patients undergo surgery to reattach amputated fingers, toes and ears, these slippery suckers often play a crucial role in restoring blood flow.
My name's Alec Hyde, and my thumb came off in a workplace accident. I was rushed straight to Sydney Hand and Eye Hospital, where they reattached my thumb. And after the surgery, I was informed that I'd need to put leeches on my thumb in order to help with the blood flow and circulation so that my thumb wouldn't die. My partner nearly fainted when she saw them putting leeches on my thumb and how they attached them, and then the environment they enclosed them in so that they could feed on me.
For us, the leeches are a last resource, but a very valuable resource, because those organisms can make the difference between saving a finger or failing to replant it.
Do you consider them colleagues?
Good friends.
Good friends.
Demand for medicinal leeches is a lot higher than you might expect. Brian's business started out as a side gig, but today he supplies these parasitic worms to hospitals all over the country.
We're probably selling in the last 4 or 5 years 5,000-6,000 leeches a year, and now I think they're probably part of the plastic surgeon's toolbox.
And when you get the leeches, why do you put them in the trenches here? Why not take them straight to the tanks back at your house?
Oh, when I breed them, they're only little weeny tackers,
Yeah.
a couple of centimetres long. So I bring them out and I release them in there.
Yeah.
And 18 months, 12 months later, I'll come back and harvest them.
So they spend about 12 months. So it's almost like an incubation pond or something like that, so they can get a bit bigger in here.
Yeah.
Slippery in there?
Just the first step.
Just the first bit, all right.
While they're growing in this channel, Brian's leeches feed off the blood of fish, tadpoles, and just about anything they can latch onto.
The leeches will sense your higher temperature and the movement in the water.
A single feed can sustain them for 12 months, so once they're big enough, they're kept away from fresh blood to ensure they're extra hungry before feeding on a patient.
How many do you reckon we're going to find today?
How many?
Yep.
Well, it's a bit like fishing. We might get a bucket full,
Yep.
or we might get 2.
I can't promise that I'm not going to yelp if we find one.
Oh, well.
Oh, I think we got one.
Yeah, Geronimo.
Look at that.
You're an expert.
So talk me through the process of using a leech in a reconstructed procedure. When would you put it on? What would you do?
We have to clean the area. So the leeches, they don't like the saline solution. They don't like antiseptic solution. They don't like dry blood. So we need to clean it in a way that they're comfortable. And then we identify the place where we want them to latch. And then we make a little prick in that area and they start doing the job.
So yeah, it's just been under a year now since the incident has happened and the thumb's been reattached and my little leech buddies have helped my thumb survive. I don't think for a second that if someone has an option to get help, regardless of the creatures they might put on you, to take it. And I have a newfound respect for leeches now.
I have had stories of them being used on children that get their fingers caught in bike spokes and dogs chewing their ears and things like that, where they've got to replace all the ear. And that's sort of rewarding when you read things like that.
So how many patients do you think your leeches have helped over the years?
Well, over the 20, 30 years that we've been doing it, it'd be thousands.
Well, it doesn't look like this little fella is actually that hungry at the moment. But it is amazing to think that these creatures have such a symbiotic relationship with humans. They can drink our congested blood, they can thin it, and even provide some local anaesthetic. In fact, they're doing what modern medicine can't do, and they've been doing it for thousands of years.
Oh my gosh, Jack, how about those leeches? Oh, not for me, thank you very much. Remember a few years ago, Miranda Kerr made leech facials popular?
You know what? It's an absolute hard no from me. And expert dermatologists agree. They say they neither work nor are good for us.
Oh, well, what a surprise. Well, one trend that the beauty industry has well and truly embraced is diversity on magazines, the catwalk, and in the thousands of different products that are available. I mean, there's just so many to choose from, Jack.
Well, Jo, the world is made up of a rainbow of different humans, and helping lead the charge is body-positive activist and skincare expert Rishi Page.
With the beauty industry and makeup in particular, it's such a freedom of expression. So you get to create your own identity just by playing with makeup. And I think that's such a special thing to be able to do, and it should be granted to everybody. I think my most memorable experience of trying to make a foundation work for my complexion was when I did my DEB when I was like 17, 18. And I would apply this product, buff it into the skin and realize that it is significantly lighter than my skin tone. So to counteract that, I would use a bronzer that was just not my skin tone either. People have said to me, you know, you don't need foundation because you've got brown skin. I'm definitely susceptible to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation when I get a breakout. And even if I did want to accept and embrace my natural skin, I would also like the option to be able to cover whatever I want to cover, if that is on my terms. When you think of an inclusive beauty brand in general, you're thinking of acceptance, support, and understanding of everybody. And when it comes to foundation shades or complexion products, we want to see undertones considered. You want to see that it's not just a light skin tone, if fair, then medium, and then medium tan. The key products to enhance deeper skin tones would be bronzer and a blush. So bronzing will add that warmth and a veil of that glow to the skin. And bronzers in general, they come in different formulas. So you can have your matte shades, you can have formulas that have a bit of shimmer in them to enhance the melanin in your skin, and it's so beautiful when you see deeper skin tones with maybe an orangey shade on their cheeks, or even red is so beautiful on deeper skin, and a good blush can take your skin to the next level. It really adds that final pop of color to the skin. My go-to everyday eyeshadow would be a deep caramel, or depending on the depth of your skin tone, you could opt for like a rich deep chocolate, or just simply like a transition shade, which would be like that medium brown color that you just wash over in your crease and put some mascara and you're done. When you see gold, oranges, rusty reds, they are what makes the eyes really pop. even green. Honestly, I think people with deeper skin tones can wear anything when it comes to shimmers and mattes, and you can wear blue and green and it's just going to really stand out because your skin is the most incredible part of you. I think if you're at home and you're sitting there feeling that you're underrepresented or you're feeling that your identity isn't being seen, please know that there are people out there right now working towards creating a safe space and an inclusive space for you to exist in. Pave your own way and be that representation that you possibly are not seeing yourself.
Well, here in Australia, we have some of the most venomous spiders in the world. Thankfully, spider deaths have been almost non-existent since the 80s. In fact, the deadly funnel web spider is now being viewed as a potential lifesaver. We'll find out how after this.
The starting point for all health and beauty is hydration. The Hydrolite Plus range is rehydration supercharged, delivering electrolytes and extra powerhouse ingredients for supporting additional health goals. First up is Hydrolite Plus Immunity, which relieves the symptoms of dehydration and also supports the immune system in helping to fight against illness. That's thanks to the addition of vitamin C, zinc and elderberry. This combo helps relieve symptoms of the common cold and flu and helps maintain a healthy immune system function. If beauty benefits are your end game, then there is Hydrolite Plus Collagen. It is made up of sustainably sourced hydrolyzed marine collagen. Beauty lovers know that this ingredient helps with the skin hydration and also contributes to the firmness and elasticity of the skin, plus helping out our hair and nails. Whichever you choose, simply empty the contents of one stick into 200 mils of cold water and stir. With great tasting flavours, it's not only the convenient and portable way to hydration, health and beauty, but the delicious way too.
Nick, a lot of debate going on at the moment about how often we should take a shower, surely at least once a day.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you're really sweaty, you've got greasy hair, daily is a good idea. But actually, from the medical point of view, for most people, 2 or 3 times a week is just fine. And if you've got dry skin or eczema, it might be a good idea.
2 or 3 times a week. You are English, Nick, so I will give that disclaimer.
to get that in, did you?
I can't get by without 2 showers a day. I start my day with a shower, finish the day with the shower. Are you saying twice a week?
Look, I'm with you, Darcy. I know that lovely feeling when you come out of a shower, but remember, we have a microbiome on our skin that may not appreciate being lathered off once or even twice a day, but I guess at least it keeps the cobwebs out of the shower.
Well, I hate snakes with a passion. I'm not so bad on spiders, but a Queensland research team are doing some fascinating work at the moment on a deadly spider that can be put to quite a unique use. You need to have a look at this. That's up next.
This is Professor Nathan Palpant. He's a world expert in venom biology. And this is one of his favourite venomous subjects, the deadly funnel web. Tucked away in a lab in the University of Queensland, he and his team spend their days sourcing venoms that contain new drugs.
The observation that venoms have remarkable drugs in them has been known for many decades. In fact, molecules including captopril, which is one of the most famous and most widely used drugs for reducing blood pressure, was derived from the venom of the pit viper.
Right now, it's the Fraser Island funnel web that's under the microscope. The venom was found to slow down brain injury from a stroke. And now there's a link to the heart as well.
We have known and been studying for decades the underlying stress responses that happen in the heart during an injury like a heart attack. But the remarkable problem is that actually no drugs have actually made it into the clinic that block these injuries from happening. So we know a lot about how they happen, but all that knowledge is actually not delivered anything clinically to impact patients.
That is, until now. Incredibly, the poisonous venom contains a molecule that slows the death of heart cells during a heart attack, buying time for the victim.
It's effectively telling the heart cells just to hang on because they're in a very serious stress space and they really want to die. But this molecule comes in and says, just hang on for a little longer. And that's really important because as patients are experiencing a heart attack, they can get to hospital and they can undergo all of the procedures that help restore the blood flow. But the heart cells really need to just hang on through that stressful period, and that's what this molecule does.
And if that isn't the most incredible thing you've ever heard, then how about this? The venom contains around 3,000 different molecules, and only one of them has the power to prevent what they call cell suicide, the potent HR1A.
We've studied this in the context of stroke, where oftentimes patients require a long time to get to hospital before they can have a diagnosis. And so that creates a long injury period where the cells are dying. And we've found that treatment with HI1A, even up to 8 hours after the onset of stroke, still reduces the injuries that happen in the context of those types of stresses. We've also found that in the context of heart attacks, we can deliver the drug just prior to effectively the surgeon getting in and restoring blood flow. So long injury periods before we deliver the drug, and it has remarkable effects in regard to the preservation of those organs and the function of those hearts.
And there's more. Extending the life of heart cells will have a huge impact on donor hearts and transplants.
And the heart is really one of the most sensitive to this transport time period. And so clinicians are really restricted to just a few hours of being able to get it from a donor to a recipient. And in Australia, that's a big problem because we have this issue of the tyranny of distance, and transporting a heart from Perth to Brisbane, for example, isn't feasible. And so our hope here is that the observation and the discovery we've made would be a significant impact to increasing that transport time so that we can really distribute the organs more effectively across the country and also improve the quality of those organs for the recipients.
Clinical trials are well underway, with the ultimate aim for first responders to administer the drug at an emergency.
The exciting aspect of this study is that we've identified a molecule from a sand island off the coast of Queensland. We here at the Institute for Molecular Bioscience have discovered its remarkable capacity to improve the value and the quality of organs that are injured in the context of stroke and heart attack, the leading causes of death in the world. And so this is an exciting opportunity, I think, for us to move this forward into an area of clinical need that could impact millions of people every year.
So, if you're not a fan of spiders, here's the last word from Nathan.
A bit more appreciation for those little critters that crawl around with a bit of a scare, but they might actually help you in the long run.
We love quirky topics here on the House of Wellness, and after the break, Dr. Nick and his daughter Isabel will talk worms. No, not those in the garden, and other parasites, the kinds that live on us and in us. So get ready to squirm. That's after this.
The goal of every parent is to give children a healthy start, an experience that is just at the very beginning for me. I know all about the relationship between good bacteria, gut health and overall health for my body, but I'm learning that it's equally as important for kids.
Our gut microbiome is an ecosystem living inside all of us, comprised of a diverse community of bacteria, viruses and fungi. It changes and adapts as we journey through life, but a balanced microbiome provides the foundations for adults and children's overall health and well-being, plus supporting their gut health and digestive system health. With up to 70% of the immune system found in our gut, a healthy microbiome also impacts immune health. Thankfully, just like adults, there's lots we can do to help kids maintain a healthy microbiome, including making sure they're eating green leafy vegetables, cutting out sugar and getting enough sleep, and of course, plenty of outside playtime. While the concept of exposing your kids to bacteria may sound a little off, family members, friends, pets and nature all contribute to the diversity of the gut community. Maintaining a balance and supporting good bacteria is important.
LifeSpace multi-strain probiotics have been designed for all the different stages of life, including children and baby. There's the probiotic powder for baby, suitable for 0 to 3 years of age and containing 10 strains of beneficial bacteria. This formula helps support baby's gut and immune system health. Then, for ages 3 to 12, the probiotic powder for children. With 15 strains of beneficial bacteria, it helps maintain immune system health and supports everyday health and well-being. And finally, LifeSpace Children Immune Support Probiotic. Also for ages 3 to 12, it contains 3 strains of beneficial bacteria with the addition of zinc, vitamin D and elderflower. This unique formula supports the health and function of children's immune systems. We can't neglect parents either. As the backbone of the family, looking after yourself helps take care of everyone else. The LifeSpace Broad Spectrum Probiotic contains 15 strains of beneficial bacteria for supporting everyday health and well-being and maintaining immune system health. We've come a long way in the education of gut health. With the start of a new year and kids going back to school or daycare, it's the perfect time to start thinking about how we can make sure they can keep doing the things they love and making busy parent life a whole lot easier.
Thanks to Sarah Davidson there for introducing us to good gut bugs. And I'm not all that familiar with bugs, but one thing I sadly am familiar with is the weevil. Have you ever had them in your pantry? They move into like your flour and your cereal and they're almost impossible to get rid of.
I have, Jack, and what I do know about weevils is over 60,000 different species of weevils alone. And as you said, they pop up in our cupboards from time to time. But on a larger scale, they can do some serious damage to crops.
I was recently in France for work, thankfully not about bugs, but researchers there have found out that the weevil isn't all that bad. In fact, they're kind of like pollinators, so they're a little similar to bees.
Well, once again, it is good to show you don't judge a bug by its scaly cover, and we maybe need to apologise to the weevil.
Yeah, but not all bugs, because as our doctor's Carr found out, some parasites do move in, and they're certainly not welcome to stay.
Hi and welcome to Medicine Past, Present and Future. My name's Dr. Nick and I'm the past.
And my name's Dr. Isabel and I'm the future.
And together, we're the present. Now, Dr. Isabel, I've got a question for you. What is the connection between a flea and a tapeworm?
Oh, well, that's a pretty easy one, Dr. Nick. They're both parasites, but what is a parasite?
It's something that lives on or in a host organism and feeds on that organism for its food.
Ew, yuck.
Yeah. And the word comes from the Greek para, meaning alongside, and sitos, meaning food. So literally to eat at another's table.
Now, you mentioned tapeworm at the beginning, Dr. Nick. That's a really good example because tapeworms can live inside our intestines for a decade and grow up to 10 metres long. But did you know, Dr. Nick, that you can order a tapeworm in the form of a pill off the internet?
What, as a pet?
Not quite. Back in the 1830s, people used to buy tapeworms and eat them as a weight loss strategy.
That just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly. So just in case anyone was wondering, it is not a good idea to buy a tapeworm in a pill off the internet, ever. Now, thankfully, tapeworms themselves are pretty rare in Australia, but there are some worms that are a little bit more common, such as the pinworm or a threadworm.
Now, this could be really embarrassing, Dr. Isabel, but I'm your dad, so that's my job.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember an incident when you were about 5 years old?
Oh, no.
And the cry came from the bathroom, "Daddy, there are worms in my poo." And you were right.
Oh, my God, that is so embarrassing.
It's important to normalise these things, Dr. Isabel.
Yeah, well, if I remember correctly, they looked a little bit like little cotton threads, but can we move along now?
Well, the important thing is they don't matter very much apart from being a bit itchy, and they're easy to treat with some simple medication you buy over the counter at the pharmacy.
So let's get on to some gory stories, Dr. Nick. I know you've got one for me today.
Yes, so I bring you a fish louse. So this little creature attaches itself to the tongue of the fish, sucks all the blood, and eventually replaces the fish's tongue entirely.
Oh, that's disgusting, Dr. Nick. Well, I see your fish louse and I raise you a zombie ant fungus. Yeah, so this fungus, it takes over the central nervous system of the ant. The ant attaches to vegetation. The fungus grows up and explodes through the brain, releasing more spores to infect even more ants.
That is totally hideous. I guess the fungus didn't have a lot of choice because an ant's brain is pretty small, so there wasn't mushroom in there.
Oh, well, maybe they were looking for a shroom with a view?
What does a mushroom get when it's having a midlife crisis?
Oh.
Spores, Carr?
Oh, all right, Dr. Nick, that's enough. You win this one.
The next 5 years or so of cardiology is going to be enormous. With the greater emphasis on lifestyle, more people are exercising, more people are trying to eat better, more people are trying to improve their happiness. So yes, we are getting better, but we still have a lot of room to move.
Cardiologist Dr. Ross Walker has always been an advocate for improving lifestyle choices to promote a healthy heart. But if you're over 30, your heart may benefit from a fat-soluble antioxidant found naturally in the body, and it's called ubiquinol.
You imagine a cell, and within the cell's this little powerhouse called the mitochondria. And what happens in the mitochondria is we generate this energy called ATP. Now, ATP is generated by the combination of oxygen and other nutrients. One of the major drivers of this reaction is ubiquinol. So what ubiquinol does is give you high-quality energy. Now, ubiquinol is the active version of coenzyme Q10. You can get 100 milligrams of ubiquinol if you have 3 kilos a day of meat, if you have 100 grams a day of broccoli, 1.6 grams a day of sardines. So we're not getting enough ubiquinol in our diet to really give us that good quality energy.
As we age, our body's natural production of ubiquinol declines, along with that source of high-quality energy. 49-year-old Wayne Ty discovered this through his doctor and immediately took action.
I've been on ubiquinol for almost 3 years now. I feel more energetic because I'm an IT person. I work very long hours and sometimes on weekends. I do feel that I can do what I want to do, whether it's sport or business, working long hours and enjoying life in the family.
Fatigue is a very common symptom. And mind you, I also say to people, if you feel tired, don't just go and take a tonic. Try and find out if there's a reason why you're feeling tired.
Joe, we've been introduced to the world of eating bugs today on the House of Wellness. How did you go?
Well, I think you and I both avoided the worst of them. Like, we didn't go for the worms or the crickets.
I can't get my head around eating insects, Joe. I'm just not an early adopter on that.
But don't you think if you can get past the ick factor, it's really beneficial? Like, they're very good for you, full of protein.
Yeah, I'm sure it's full of protein, Joe, but so is a beautiful piece of salmon. Having said that, though, they tell me 80% of the world's population have included eating some form of insect in their diet as a staple for generations, so I've probably got to get over it.
Well, as someone with gut issues and knowing that gut issues and dietary-related diseases are on the rise in Western society, perhaps it is time that we think a little bit more outside the box and are willing to explore foods that are not so conventional.
And I'm a celiac, Joe, so I'm always conscious around avoiding wheat and gluten products, and I'm generally pretty open-minded. There's not many things I won't eat, but I'm sitting there looking at a cricket or a hot chip. It's got to be the hot chip.
Well, the bad news is, Das, hot chips are not on the menu in the House of Wellness kitchen. I'm sorry about that. But protein most definitely is. Here's Zoe with her beautiful protein-packed tacos made purely from plants.
Nuts are such a versatile ingredient. They flatter all flavours and cuisines, especially those in my high-protein tacos with cucumber salad. To start, I'm blitzing walnuts so they can absorb all the divine Mexican spices. Don't overdo it. You want the consistency to be nice and crumbly. I'm doing a vegetarian take on beef mince, but the walnuts will still give you a boost to your protein levels. Before adding them, I want to give heaps of time to saute the onion, chilli and garlic. Oh, I wish you could smell this combo. So good. Fresh tomatoes give a hint of sweetness to counteract the pungency of the coriander. Plus, there's the heat from the chilli, cayenne pepper, smoked paprika and cumin. I love that spicy kick, so the more, the merrier. The walnuts will add depth to the sauce. They need about 5 minutes to soften up. For a bit of extra crunch, cabbage, cucumber and shallots. Include any leftover coriander and more chilli, of course. All that's left to do is load it up. Soft or hard taco shells, it's your choice. Either way, it might get a bit messy. But if you ask me, that's the best way to enjoy a meal.
Well, today on the House of Wellness, Jo, has been a lot about not judging things solely on the way they look.
Yeah, it's very hard not to judge a snap, frozen, creepy crawly with the little legs, you know, hanging out like those mealworms, Jacqui, you weren't into, although I did like the ant candy, I've got to say.
I prefer my animals to be the cute and cuddly kind. So have a look at this. It's a long way from an ant. It's a beautiful baby giraffe.
Really is one of a kind, Jack. Was born in the Tennessee Zoo in the US and is believed to be the only solid-coloured giraffe on the planet. And they've named it Kipike, which means unique in Swahili.
She's developing beautifully alongside her baby brother, who was actually born 2 weeks before her.
Well, Kipike is amazing, and hopefully her appearance will help shine a light on giraffe preservation, because tragically their population numbers have plummeted to 70,000, with 40% of that lost over the last 3 decades alone, which is just tragic.
Yeah, it's really upsetting to hear that, Joan. It does make you think a lot about animal conservation and how we all need to be involved in playing our part in that.
Well, I couldn't live without my dog. He certainly rules the roost at home, young Harry, the 1-year-old Kelpie.
A bit like our family, Jack. Dennis is the centrepiece of our whole house, and we love our animals for sure. That's all we've got time for today on the House of Wellness. Thanks to Dr. Nick, to Jo and to Jack. That's all we've got time for today.
Make sure you check out House of Wellness Radio with Gerald Quigley and Luke Hines every Sunday.
Big thanks to our friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time on the House of Wellness.